Telecommunications industry is adopting AI at an incredible pace. According to a study from Future Market Insights Incorporated, market value of AI in telco sector is expected to skyrocket from $1.2 billion in 2023 to over $14.5 billion by 2033, a compound annual growth rate of 28.5%. Now, the transformative capabilities of AI are helping many telco companies enhance their network management and strengthen security mechanisms, predictive maintenance, fraud detection, revenue forecasting management, all listed as benefits to the sector. Joining us to discuss further is Kenneth Nwabueze, who is the chairman of Vitel Wireless. He joins us from our Abuja studios. Good morning to you, sir. Thank you so much for being with us. I wanted to first get your thoughts on your what you make of the NCC, the communications exercise to remove SIMs that are not linked to verifiable NINs.
Thanks for having me on this show this morning. NCC decision to remove those SIM that are not linked to NIN complies with international standard. Everybody thinks of the basic security issues that non-linked NIN to SIM are costing to us. But there's a lot of other benefits that we can think of. For the very first time, we're probably going to have an accurate database of subscribers in Nigeria, which is going to spur growth. Telecom companies can predict much better now that we know what the real subscriber database is versus what it was in the past. So I know that the process has taken so long, and I applaud the efforts of Dr. Aminu Mahdi at NCC to eventually get us to the point where we are today. So I think it's a welcome development in the industry.
Do you expect the subscription and teledensity figures to keep falling as the exercise continues? Not at all. There's another factor to why the teledensity number went down. There was also rebasing of population by the National Population Commission, right? So I think we're going by the estimate of 216.7 million population versus the 233 that some of these factors were based on before. This is a one-time exercise to clean up the database. Going forward, any new SIM will automatically be linked to SIM or to international passport. So I don't expect the number to continue to go down. I expect the number to actually start rising the normal way that it's supposed to rise, not rapidly, but at least at a good pace going forward. Okay, so on an annual basis, I think we have another chart for that. Subscriptions in 2023 rose to 224.7 million from 222.5 in 2022. So again, I think you mentioned population now. There was the dynamic between the population, with room to grow on a population basis while still acknowledging that same NIN exercise.
Well, there's a couple of other data that we should look at. We should look at active SIM subscription. The number seems to be going up. It's going up at least at the rate of 0.5% month to month. Internet subscription, that's also going up. I think there's also certain things like the broadband effort policy that are going on at NCC. I expect those to be factors that will affect telecom in Nigeria. Now, teledensity was one number that we looked at. Now we've talked about this other number, and why I think that the numbers are not going down, they're going to go up, is I expect we have a young population. Average age in Nigeria, I think, is 17.4 years. So we expect those age people to be coming more and more into the working environment, and the use of data and the use of internet and voice to be going up.
Okay, so can you tell us about your operations at Vitel and whether or not what you make of artificial intelligence as far as its benefits to the telecommunications sector? So I think the value is estimated at about 1.2 or 3 billion or so in 2023, but expected to grow to about 14.5 billion. So what's your take on what AI could bring to the sector?
Yeah, it's expected to grow to about 14.5 billion by 2035. I think AI is a game changer in everything that we're going to be doing. And if you look at the concept of AI, it's usually about collection of data, the algorithms and computational power to be able to analyze those things. You mentioned a few things, a few benefits to the telecom industry. But one of the most important one is the dynamic allocation of resources. What does that mean? Right now, people are complaining about bad, quality of service. I think AI is going to help the telecom industry to actually dynamically reallocate resources, improving services. If you look at our telecom industry, quite honestly, there hasn't been much of an improvement from the 1998, 1999 liberalization of the telecom. We haven't seen any improvement. Our 4 giant telecoms have focused on voice and data. So someone like Vitel Wireless and a couple of the new ones that were recently licensed by NCC under the category of MVNO, we're going to come in and change the industry. So Vitel is going to focus on 2 core areas. LBS, which is location-based service and Internet of Things. And that's going to be our core area because we realize there's voice and data. Yeah, we're going to leave the big boys to play there. But there's so much improvement, so much innovation that we can have in Nigeria, being a growing economy. There's so much we can do, and I think someone like Vital is in a position to actually bring those innovations into place. Our SMEs are suffering. They don't even have basic tools that innovation in telecom brings into place. So when we're talking about these things, we're talking about infusion, integration of AI into these location-based services and Internet of Things. For example, one of the things we looked at is the current issue we have in Nigeria, the issue of security. People are getting kidnapped or people are missing without any traces. So someone like Vitel is saying that we're going to give you a SIM card that once you press a button, the AI engine behind it will immediately start recording your location so that information can be made available to our law enforcement agencies or to your family in the case of where you go missing or something happens to you. So that's where someone like Vital and a couple of the new ones that are coming into play are going to focus on. We're going to change the whole telecom industry as we know it.
Now, okay, so very bullish there on the change in the telco sector. Where do you, as Vital and other players, see growth in the telco sector in Nigeria coming from? Most say it's going to come from the urban areas, and there doesn't seem to be much of an incentive or a return on investment to go into the rural areas. So where do you see growth coming from? Are you looking at the rural areas at all?
Well, I'm looking at a couple of things. My sector, the mobile network operators of Nigeria, we're looking at a couple of things. One, if you look at the dynamics in Nigeria, our urban area is 53.2% of our population. That means there's still another 46-47% in the rural area. And then there's always this rural to urban migration. Now, a couple of things has happened. Why I think I'm also bullish on the rural area. Our fintech industry have done very well in doing financial inclusion in those rural areas. So you have people in rural area that was unbankable before, now being bankable with the likes of the new generation banks. That's what's going to happen in the telecom industry. People like Vitel is going to go into rural area and create a niche, create a need for them to actually be able to get value from the data that they are purchasing. Second thing that is going to happen is the rollout of 4G and 5G will continue to grow in Nigeria. People like MTN, Airtel continue to roll out their 4G and 5G, and I think that's going to drive growth in the rural area, right? The broadband into the rural area initiative that NCC is also doing is going to drive that growth. So for me, I think there's still growth in the urban area, but there's much growth in the rural area, in areas of application, not necessarily in voice and data, but application, automation of everything from farming to smart homes in the rural area. You have a lot of people that have mansions in the village. Who is protecting those mansions? How do they have a view of what's going on? Those are applications that can actually be applied in the rural area. So I see growth, much of growth. in our rural area, but there's still some potential in the urban area.
My final question for you, sir. Your outlook for the sector in 2025. There's talk of a 5% tax on the telco players. Telco players have also talked about the fact of the need to raise prices. There is, of course, ongoing reforms in Nigeria that have impacted the disposable income of citizens. So what's your, we just had a budget, of 47.9 trillion naira budget now for 2025 with a growth process. How do you see 2025 for your sector? What's your outlook?
Well, ROTUS is a double-edged sword in the sense that on one hand, cost of living is going up in Nigeria, and we don't want telecom to contribute tremendously to that. On the other hand, the telecom industry also have a higher cost of operation, cost of diesel, even salaries have all gone up. So there has to be a balance. I think NCC needs to come into play here and determine what that balance is. The cost base, the base cost for telecom service is 6 naira 40 kobo, and that has not changed in the last 10 years. So I think there's a need to even look at that and say, okay, do we raise it to 8 naira or do we raise it to 10 naira? I'm not a fan of raising it to 15 or 20 naira. Obviously, we are here to serve the citizens. We are here to make our country better, and you cannot price yourself out of the market. So if we can find a balance between those two, we need to do that. The telecom industry is actually suffering. If you look at some of their financial reporting in the last quarter or so, almost every one of them are in the red. And that's a factor of exchange rates going up. A lot of the equipment we use in the telecom are not made in Nigeria. They are imported. Well, some of the softwares, our young generations are actually doing well in creating the software, but the hardwares are still being imported from the companies like Huawei and Ericsson. And there's a exchange rate factor to that. So for 2025, I'm still bullish that the telecom industry will continue to grow. With what Dr. Aminu Maida have done at NCC, licensing the MVNOs. These are a new crop of mobile operators that are going to drive innovation. I think with that, we're going to see a tremendous growth in the telecom industry. We're going to see the GDP telecom contributing more than the average 1.8 that we've been doing to something much higher. I expect to see our younger generation coming into the telecom and changing the outlook of telecom in Nigeria. There's still a lot of areas to grow. We haven't even scratched the surface. We mentioned AI. There's other things that are coming in place. So I'm bullish and optimistic that 2025 will actually see a lot of innovation and growth in the telecom sector in Nigeria.
All right, Mr. Kenneth Nwabueze, the chairman of Vitel Wireless, thank you so much for your insightful thoughts here on the telco sector. And we'll have you back in 2025, see how things work out. You're watching the Global Business Report here on Arise News.